Right, they live.
Ram.
An appearance at the parking lot across the street from the hotel, and he is on his way up. We expect him to walk through this door at any moment. The crowd has been here since early this morning, and when he addressed the group in the parking lot across the street, there were apparently 3,000 to 4,000 persons. This is just a guesstimate, as officials say. The crowd had continued to build and probably will continue to build throughout this half-hour event here at the Hotel Texas, because many people want to see the president when he leaves to go to Carswell Air Force Base. The 2,000 guests here in the ballroom have already had breakfast. They are waiting, and so in one sense, the presidential breakfast title is misleading, because the president will walk in just in time to sit down and make his address to the people. He should start talking within about 7 or 8 minutes, assuming he arrives within the next few minutes. And he plans to speak for 20 minutes. However, his schedule is so tight, he's due in Dallas in less than 2.5 hours. He may not speak that long. He may tailor his speech to fit the time available. At 5:30 this morning, people were already waiting outside, and at 5:30 there was a heavy rain coming down. It was strange to see that the parking lot, or several of the parking lots around the hotel, were already filled at 5:30 in the morning. It looked more like about 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night in downtown Fort Worth. Coming into the ballroom with the governor, the president will be Governor John Connally, Senator Ralph Yarborough, and Vice President Lyndon Johnson. The rest of the head table's already been seated. They came in about 17 minutes ago. We understand that the president is just about ready to come in through. He'll come in through the kitchen, incidentally, as a security measure, and will leave the same way. There had been plans for him to leave from here in an open car. A convertible is parked outside, but with the rain falling the way it is, it's fairly certain that the top will be up. His route to Carswell is as follows, for those who may want to get a chance to look at him when he leaves the hotel here. Up Main Street to Belknap, then out Belknap to Jacksboro, out Jacksboro to River Oaks Boulevard, then to Roaring Springs Road, and on to Carswell Air Force Base. More than 1,000 students at River Oaks Elementary School will be out of class for a few minutes so they can see the president's motorcade go by. At Carswell, they were aboard Air Force One, that's the president's jet transport, fly to Dallas for a greeting there. And for our Dallas viewers, the motorcade downtown will go Lemon to Turtle Creek, then down Cedar Springs to Harwood, down Main, circle the courthouse, then out Stemmons Freeway to the Trade Mart. After the Dallas appearance, of course, he goes to Austin, where tonight there will be a $100 a plate fundraising dinner, the only event that's tagged as political in his tour of Texas. However, there is feeling that by some, especially his critics, that the entire trip through Texas, the 2-day 5-speech tour, is political in that he's mending political fences here in Texas. Normally, a trip from the marquee downstairs up here takes about 30 seconds, but we assume he shakes hands with everyone in sight. And we've just had word that he is entering now. We have not seen him yet, but we'll stand by and let you know as soon as we do see him coming. Among those seated at the head table are Monsignor Vincent Wolf, who will give the invocation. You see him there talking to Fort Worth Mayor Pro Tem Willard Barr. That's Mrs. Barr between them. Down the table next to them are Judge Marvin B. Simpson Jr. and his wife, Mrs. Simpson. Then the woman there on the right is Mrs. Kennard. Her husband is downstairs with the president. He will enter the hall with him. The next lady is Mrs. John Connally, of course. Her husband, too, will come in with the president, as will Mrs. Lyndon B. Johnson's husband. The next two seats are reserved for the president and Mrs. Kennedy. On the other side of the rostrum, you see Mayor Baird Friedman and his wife. And next to him would be Attorney General and Mrs. Carr. Then House Speaker Byron Tunnell. As you can see, who's who in Texas politics is here for this event today. Next to them are Mr. and Mrs. Marion L. Hicks, The next couple you will see are Mr. and Mrs. Jack W. Melcher. This breakfast is being sponsored by the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce, and here is Milt Atkinson Jr., director of the Fort Worth Chamber. And seated next to the Atkinsons are Mr. and Mrs. O.C. Yancey. Mr. Yancey is a labor leader in Fort Worth, and the man who will give the benediction is Dr. Granville T. Walker, seated at the end of the table there. We've had several false starts, so to speak, that the president is coming. When he does, of course, there will be a large round of applause, and the Eastern Hills High School Band, 79 members, will break out with Hail to the Chief, so you'll have no doubt when he does arrive. When the president appeared out in the parking lot, he broke one of the cardinal rules of security. In fact, he broke it 2 or 3 times. He went out into the crowd, and of course Secret Service men find this the most nervous time of any presidential appearance. As long as the Secret Service men can keep the crowd away from the president, they have a good chance of protecting him. But once he moves into a crowd, the Secret Service men are nearly immobilized in protecting him. Another rule is that anyone who approaches the president should have both hands visible and empty. And as you can tell in a crowd, there's no way to determine that. So whenever the president does move out into a crowd for handshaking and backslapping and exchanging pleasantries, he is always at the mercy of the crowd, and the Secret Service is at its least effective position. On September 6, 1901, those 2 rules were broken, and it ended in tragedy. That was the day that President William McKinley was appearing at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. And at a public reception, the crowd moved in around him, and the 3 Secret Service men who were guarding him had no chance to screen the people approaching him. Because it was a hot day, Secret Service also allowed persons to have handkerchiefs in their hands to wipe their perspiring brows. It just so happened that one of the thousands of handkerchiefs in that large hall covered a revolver in the hand of 28-year-old Leon Czolgosz. He was an unemployed mill worker. He said he was an anarchist. He was also was a man with a long history of mental illness. And as in many important occasions of the world, no one seemed to sense that anything different was going to happen. When McKinley reached out to shake Czolgosz's hand, it looked like a familiar scene. The scene of the President of the United States shaking hands with Fred Nobody. The assassin shattered that picture quickly. He slapped McKinley's hand away and fired 2 shots point blank. In an instant, McKinley's attacker was driven to the floor. As the president was being helped to a chair, McKinley murmured, "Don't let them hurt him." 7 days later, McKinley was dead. Oddly enough, the assassination attempt was staged in the Temple of Music, quite an ironical note, and there was a quiet Bach sonata being played in the background when the 2 fatal shots rang out. Now here comes Vice President Johnson, Governor Conley, Senator Ralph Yarborough, Congressman Jim Wright, State Senator Don Kennard. But still, the president has not arrived. You may have heard the drums roll in the background in anticipation of it. When the president walks in, they will play Hail to the Chief. And now we expect any moment now the president to enter the hall. From our vantage point, we can see a flurry of activity by Secret Service men in the kitchen, so we assume that as soon as the head table is seated, that is Governor Conley, Vice President Lyndon Johnson, Senator Yarborough, and State Senator Don Kennard, and Congressman Jim Wright, the president will enter the ballroom. One of the Secret Service men, who is one of the key operators here, has just stepped into the kitchen, so we assume he is preparing the way for the president. He was due to arrive in the ballroom at 9 o'clock, and if my watch is correct, it's now 9:10, so he's running about 10 minutes behind schedule. Just what effect this will have on the length of his speech, we do not know. As we said earlier, normally in such instances, the speech is tailored to fit the time available, and there's not much time available. Here comes the President. As you may have noticed, Mrs. Kennedy did not enter with the President. So far, we have no indication of where she may be. And I can tell you from where we are standing, there are quite a few ladies who appear to be quite disappointed that Mrs. Kennedy is not here. I am sure that if she does not appear, the President will explain the reason for her absence. But we think perhaps the President was delayed. He may have changed his suit coat when he entered the building from the parking lot appearance across the street. He was quite damp from the rain. He was the only member of the official party that did not wear a raincoat. But as he walked by me here, I noticed that his coat was dry and there were no rain spots on it, so he may have gone to his suite to change the suit coat.
Please. The invocation will be given by Monsignor Vincent J. Wolfe. Monsignor Wolfe.
O eternal God, Father of these United States of America, we as a nation are grateful for our noble destiny. From the day of our initial consecration to Thee, we have relied upon Thine omnipotent providence, and under Thy protection, we are now before the world a beacon of hope, a shrine of liberty and justice for all. Our founding fathers proclaimed Thee Creator, and by that fact, our country promotes for each resident a liberty most absolute and an equality most entire. O God of might and wisdom, with Thy Spirit of counsel and fortitude, assist our President of the United States that his administration will be useful and fruitful for the common good of Thy people over whom he presides. And, O God, may we with him be Thine instruments in establishing the divine harmony throughout the world, so that Thy sons and daughters from one end of the earth to the other may be free to join in the glorious hymn of worship. Glory be to Thee, O God, in the highest, and on earth, peace. Now, O God, the giver of good gifts, we thank thee for the food which thou hast given for the nourishment of our bodies, the temples of our souls, made to thine image and likeness. Amen.
Be seated, please.
There's a lull in the program here as the next item on the agenda is straightened out. We still have no word from Secret Service men or White House aides as to why Mrs. Kennedy is not present at the breakfast. The man who introduced Monsignor Wolf was Raymond Buck, president of the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce. If everything goes according to schedule, the next item on the program will be a rendition by the Texas Boys Choir.
If you will.
In a situation like this, the best a reporter can do is guess sometimes, but we've been watching the head table closely, and so far there's been no coffee placed at Mrs. Kennedy's spot at the table, and no breakfast has been set down. So this indicates that she will not appear. Now, once again, here's Mr. Buck.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful to see you all here this morning, and we now are going to have the pleasure of hearing from Fort Worth's finest, the Texas Boys Choir.
The eyes of Texas are upon you, all the livelong day. The eyes of Texas are upon you, you cannot get away. Do not think you can escape them at night or early in the morn. The eyes of Texas are upon you, till Gabriel blows his horn.
It's strange how in situations like this, a relatively minor character can become so important. Quite a few people in the ballroom are watching the maitre d'. He's the short man that's walking back and forth behind the head table. He put a plate in front of Vice President Johnson. He put one in front of Kennedy, and quite a few people noted that so far there is no plate at the place of Mrs. Kennedy. Now he's pouring coffee. As he moves down the line again, he did not stop at Mrs. Kennedy's place.
There was a noble ranger, his name was Mustang Gray. He left his home in Butter, you went ranging far away, went ranging far away. He never sleep within a tent, no comforts would he know, but like a brave old Texian, a-ranging he would go, a-ranging he would go. Oh, Mustang Gray was the hero of his day, no more the Indians will he fight, for he's heard his last war whoop, having joined another troop, where they haven't any enemies to fight. When Texas was invaded, they captured Mustang Gray. He wore the yoke of bondage through the streets of Monterey, the streets of Monterey. In came a señorita before the light of day, who opened wide the prison door and led him on his way, and led him on his way. Oh, Mustang Gray was the hero of his day, no more the torrents will he fright, for he's heard his elder band, and he's ranging in a land where they haven't any enemies to fight. And when this veteran's life was spent in Rose's last command, to bury him on Texas soil beside the Rio Grande, beside the Rio Grande. And there the lonely traveler would rest his way.
We've just received word from one of the president's aides that Mrs. Kennedy is on her way down, and apparently this is what's caused the delay, because there are additional selections by the Texas Boys Choir not scheduled for the program. And as far as we can determine, she will enter the same way the president did, through the kitchen door that you see, for security reasons. 1 minute ago, we were told she'd be down in 30 seconds, so as you can see, we are just standing by until she arrives.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct privilege to introduce or to present to you the guests at the head table, leaving for the moment those that you'll hear from later. First of all, it is a personal pleasure for me to present the most gallant, able Texan of them all, one who has done so much for Texas and America, the distinguished Vice President of the United States, Lyndon B. Johnson. And his lovely wife, companion, Lady Bird. Next, we have the pleasure of presenting Fort Worth's own, the talented Governor of Texas, Governor John B. Connally. And his sweet wife, Nellie. We're honored to have with us today the distinguished and able senior citizen of Texas, Senator Ralph W. Yarborough. We have had many able congressmen from this district, none of which have ever surpassed in dedication, loyalty, and capability to country and to district, the Honorable Jim Wright. Next, we have the distinguished West Texan, the people's lawyer, Attorney General Wagoner Carr. And the attractive Mrs. Carr. Guiding our House of Representatives with a firm hand and with great success is our Speaker, Byron Tunnell. And his wife, Mrs. Tunnell. Near here on my left, the able, dedicated, hard-working mayor of this vibrant and vigorous city, who is giving us a tremendous administration as mayor, Mayor Barrett H. Friedman. And his wife, Mrs. Friedman. Only one county in the United States, I have been told, is free of debt, Mr. President, and that is Tarrant County. Represented here this morning by our County Judge Marvin B. Simpson, Jr. And Mrs. Simpson. Assisting, substituting at times for our mayor, we have a very fine Mayor Pro Tem. He's been a leader here in political and business circles for many years, Willard Barr. And Mrs. Barr. In the state Senate, we are ably and vigorously represented by our Senator Don Kennard. And Mrs. Kennard. In the Chamber of Commerce, my work has been made easy by the able assistance of the vice presidents and the staff, directors, members. Here this morning, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Marion L. Hicks, Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce, and General Dynamics. And Mrs. Hicks. Also of tremendous value, assistance to the Chamber of Commerce the last 2 years has been our Vice President, Jack W. Melcher of Lennox Manufacturing Company, and Mrs. Melcher. The fellow who really does the hard work at the Chamber of Commerce, and who I believe is, well, he's finally come up to take his seat. He's been out there working. Is our very talented Milton A. Atkinson, Vice President and General Manager. And Mrs. Atkinson. The Central Trades Council and the building and construction trades are ably represented here in Fort Worth by Mr. O.C. Yancey, President, Central Trades Council, and Mrs. Yancey. Completes the introductions, except for those who have spoken or will speak later. All right. And now is an event that I know all of you have been waiting for. You know what I mean?
As you can tell from the reaction, that's Mrs. Kennedy coming in. She's been standing outside in the kitchen waiting for the introduction of the guests at the head table to be completed. Now she is moving up to the front of the ballroom, mounting the dais. For the ladies in the audience, she's wearing a pink outfit trimmed in black. If I knew more about it, I'd tell you the kind of material. It looks like a nubby material, wool of some type. And with the chilly weather outside today, this is probably very appropriate. There's some very happy women here today who made the trip down to see her, and now they've seen her.
There is always